Thank you, Senator Kepler. Representative Udera, members of the committee, my name is David Trahan. I'm the Executive Director of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, ILA, testifying in support of our bill, and thank Senator Black for introducing it. I can't wait to answer the question, particularly from Representative Ankles. Sorry. I'll get back to that in a moment. From the University of Maine, Maryland study titled Researchers Discover Solar Heat Island Effect Caused by Large Solar Power Plants. For this study, the team defined the heat island effect as the difference in ambient air temperature around the solar power plant compared to that of the surrounding wild desert landscape. Findings demonstrated that temperatures around solar power plants were 5.4 to 7.2 degrees warmer than nearby undeveloped lands. As the committee knows, there'll soon be a new round of proposals to build a renewable energy corridor in northern Maine to bring wind power into the New England grid. This new corridor will also have the capacity to accept solar-generated power. What is also known is these new solar arrays will be much larger than those developed in southern Maine. We are already seeing proposals like that in Hershey, Maine, north of Patton, to build a 5,000-acre solar array. The average township in northern Maine is 23,000 acres. This from the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife website. Maine is the only state with an extensive intact population of wild, self-sustaining, reproducing brook trout in lakes and ponds. IF&W website goes on. Furthermore, Maine is the last true stronghold for stream-dwelling populations of wild brook trout. Much of the land within the surrounding area proposed in the Hershey site is just such a stronghold. According to literature distributed widely, solar panels reach surface temperatures exceeding 150 degrees Fahrenheit, warm enough to fry your breakfast. In contrast, the hottest day ever recorded on this earth was 134.1 degrees in 1913 in Death Valley. Solar panels become less efficient as they heat. This heat is released within the solar array site instead of generating power. According to the University of Maryland researchers, this heat causes what is called the solar heat island effect, raising temperatures as I described. What is not addressed in the University of Maryland article is how solar island heat affects surface water runoff and nearby stream water temperatures. DIF&W and DEP have both confirmed they do not monitor, and neither do any other states, air and water temperatures around solar arrays. DIF&W has provided research that confirms water runoff in a solar development is 11 times faster than in undisturbed wild lands. In other words, on a hot summer day in August, when streams are at their lowest flows, water from a thunderstorm downpour gets to the stream 11 times faster. In addition, if the land where the array was built on what was once a forest or intermittent streams with herbaceous or brushy ground cover that was cleared for development, studies show temperatures of surface water runoff is altered by 14 degrees. In other words, it's 14 degrees warmer. I've supplied you with all the studies that show that. These facts relating to altered temperatures and runoff should raise concerns when you consider DIF&W's own recommendations for stream setbacks in solar is 100 feet. Does this committee know how many commercial solar arrays approved by state regulators have had their recommended setbacks waived and are closer than 100 feet? Recommendations based on research data that are not enforced are just words. Is a 100-foot setback from riparian areas sufficient to protect fish and invertebrate life in those sensitive habitats? More research is needed in monitoring to clearly answer that question. I do support amending this bill, narrowing it down, applying it to larger solar arrays, and trying to get to the issue that we're trying to address here. But I would like to leave the committee with this thought. An arbitrary 100-foot setback doesn't necessarily protect what we're trying to protect. Research that defines what that setback needs to be appropriately is what will protect that stream. So we would support amending this and narrowing it down to a larger one. We want to protect cold water fisheries. In addition to that, we think that Inland Fisheries and Wildlife has an important role. They have a statutory requirement to protect these resources. They are far more receptive to doing the research, and I think bringing them into this discussion could be twofold. Establish a protection now, establish some limited research, and then bring that research back, and then tailor that setback appropriately.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Trahan. We have questions. We'll go to Senator Tepler and then Rep. Sobolewski.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Trahan. My question is, do you have any other research about this heat island that's been done any place other than a desert?
Well, nobody wants to do it, Senator. There's no states that I know of that are doing this research.
I hear you. I guess I have some questions about whether research that takes place in the Sonoran Desert, which is what I think this is applicable to Maine's environment.
Sure.
Given that this is an area that receives enormous amounts of sunshine and very little rainfall year round, and no snowfall. So I'm worried about the application of this research to what we're doing here.
Well, if I could find you better research, I would do that, and that's why I'm here. It scares me that we're about to create a corridor into northern Maine, a place that environmental groups just 10 years ago said it was so special that we should protect 3 million acres as a national park. And now we're sending up these solar arrays in the 5,000 acre size into the very same places that just 10 years ago were so important to protect without the data, without the research. We will do, and we will push this forward as much as we have to get attention to this issue. There is no research. The setbacks that they're talking about in shoreland, I'm aware of as a former lawmaker. I know exactly what they are. They're for development. They weren't created for solar. They need to be tailored to the solar industry. You're creating on the environment an oven. In an August day when it is 95 degrees in northern Maine, those panels get hot. Just like when you put your cell phone on the dashboard in the summertime, it will shut off because it gets so hot it can't tolerate the heat. Well, the same is true of these panels. Keep in mind that you're going to hear testimony that there's only so much sun that hits this ground in a day. What solar panels do is they intercept that sunlight, and then they redistribute it through the solar panel, which is only 25% efficient, becomes less efficient as it gets hotter, and that heat has to go somewhere. That heat used to go into the plants, became our oxygen. It processed through photosynthesis. It's intercepted. Then comes your thunder shower, an inch and a half of rain. That panel, that's 150 degrees, is containing that heat. It gets absorbed in the water and shoved into the stream at a rate of 11 times that of the natural environment. If that doesn't concern you, then I don't know what else to say.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my follow-up question is, there are similar kinds of concerns for electrical transmission lines and the sort of EMGs that they produce. And have you asked similar questions about electrical transmission lines and their effect on the environment and wildlife?
Of course we have. Our organization has sponsored pretty much every conservation program, Land for Maine's Future, Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund, the LMF Trust Fund, every major land conservation program in this state. We are more of a conservation group than we are a gun rights group. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, we will question anything that impacts our wildlife and our natural environment.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Okay, we're going to go to Rep. Sobolewski now.
Thank you, Representative. Director, I appreciate you bringing this bill forward. I think it's incredibly important. Unfortunately, every initiative or bill that's come before the committee in the last 2.5 years that I've been involved that requires some kind of either testing or requirement that it not harm our environment has gotten shot down. We can't find out whether solar fields are destroying and harming our environment. So in your case here, why would an environmentalist group be opposed to understanding how much heat is being put off by a solar field?
Well, we're in the midst of a global climate change debate in which some environmental groups view this climate change being a very big and broad danger to our world. And I think that they're so committed to that sometimes they will not dive into the details of solar. And I don't want to criticize them. I don't want to make enemies of people I work with, but that's just what it feels like. Now, in the instance of this bill, you don't have to have one or the other. You can have both. And what is missing here is that good research that tells us that a 200-foot buffer is what we need to keep the water cool. An arbitrary setback of 100 may not accomplish what we need. But I'm shocked that the environmental groups, to be honest with you, any of them would oppose this, because all we're asking is good information so we can make good decisions. And so I'm perplexed by that. To be honest with you, I'm shocked.
Follow. Thank you. Do you see value here in any way of the manufacturer setting up what's necessary to be testing and having an outside source other than the department do the analytical work on it?
I don't want the developers. We passed the bill a couple of years ago to do wildlife mitigation on solar projects. We still can't get any rules out of it, and there's already attempts to change it. So I don't want them doing it. But that doesn't mean we don't have an entity to do it. Sportsmen have always funded conservation to the point of $25 billion through the Pittman-Robertson Act. IF&W has resources. If not, we will support the resources they need to do the testing. So you don't have to do it. We will pay for it because sportsmen, that's what we do. Conservationists do that because they want to protect the things that are important to our state. So you bring this in, I believe, I know that a license fee increase for fishing licenses will happen. I supported it. Matter of fact, I helped craft the amendment to give the department significant dollars for research. It's going to expand their ability to do this type of study. So I would say bring in the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, have a two-pronged approach. Do an initial setback to protect the resource, get the good data you need, have it reported back, and then we can set the appropriate setbacks.
Thank you.
It's my turn again.
Okay, do we have additional questions? I know, okay, we'll go to Senator Tepler, then we'll go to Rep. Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you again for being here, Mr. Trahan. I'm holding in my hand this packet of information that is the recommendations of the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife on solar energy products. Not products, projects.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I understand.
I misspoke. As I look through it, my concern is that they are recommendations and don't have the force of law.
Correct.
And I'm wondering how the Sportsmen's Alliance feels about some efforts on the part of this committee to make some of these have the force of law rather than simply be recommendations, and whether that would achieve some of the goals that you set out in this bill.
Senator, you're exactly right. And as a former lawmaker of 12 years, I know what the word recommendation means. And it can be manipulated, just like procedures sometimes can also be ignored. That isn't enough to protect the last remaining unbroken brook trout habitat in the United States. The reason that other states aren't examining this is because they don't have that resource left. They've already destroyed theirs. So your question is perfect. The state needs to make a statement that this resource is important and we're going to protect it and do it responsibly. So I think your question was perfect and I completely support it.
And I got the impression that Director Wood supported that concept as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rep. Campbell, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Representative. Honorable, good to see you. From the old days, we miss your probing, analytical of all the different issues that come before us. But you've been here. Most everything that has been proposed has a number with it. You may have just addressed the issue.
I did.
How do we not put the burden on our departments, but analyze this completely?
Yeah,
To bring something back before us.
Sure. Well, it's a good question. I know you have a difficult budget right now. I have been helping leadership, including the governor's office, with some of that. It'll come out later. We're very helpful in trying to solve problems. Sportsmen have, and we always will, come forward and pay for the protection of those resources. That's just the model we use. If you bring in IF&W, I will support whatever it takes to fund the research necessary to get this done. The people at IF&W, they are mandated by statute to do this. I'm not sure that shouldn't have been a joint reference, to be honest with you, because they have a role in this. And we will support whatever it takes to get it done, because once that resource is gone, it's gone forever. When I was a kid, we had these resources statewide and they have disappeared. And we're going to protect what's left in northern Maine. And we're just concerned that, especially, I tell you, this Hershey proposal of 5,000 acres scared us. When I saw that, I've fished on that property. It's riddled with brook trout streams. And it's a resource that once it's developed, it will be gone. 5,000 acres is a massive solar array in a place that is incredibly environmentally sensitive.
So possibly you could come back to us with a program.
I will meet with the governor's office, with Judy Camuso, the commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, the commissioner of DEP. I really like Rob and I respect him a lot. I'll try to put together something that fits for them and come forward to this committee with it.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of the department
Yes,
and
as you
its
should be.
leadership. So
As you should be.
we'd love to be able to get this accomplished and not blow out their budget.
Sure.
Do we have additional questions? No. Okay, then. Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you very much.